Okay, so I'm being a little impatient with this. That will cause you some, some smearage, right? If you can see here, I've used some yellow on areas where the background is really red, and I've used this brush. I just load it up a little bit, and then wherever I touch, I just do the tips there, right? And if you let it flare out, it gives you an interesting sort of little pattern, right? And you can just kind of go along the tree. If you carry some of the black with you, that's fine. You might, you might not. And I'm doing down here in the corner as well, because I'm just trying to give this overall foliage feeling, right? Um, but I'm also going along the tree line, right? This yellow is not so bad, I guess. I think it's really giving me kind of a greenish pattern because I have mixed stuff. But I'm going to go and I'm actually going to do some green. I think we're going to do some green on this right part of the picture, as it just kind of matches with the yellow a little bit. And maybe this isn't so much green. Maybe this down here might be some ground foliage, right? Just some tree patterns now that I'm thinking about it. My partner is taking a master class on how to do brush strokes with ceramics right now. And you guys notice how I'm just pressing down like this and I'm just using the tip, right? It can create a very cool undergrowth pattern, right? Or at least whenever you take a look back, it'll look, you know, a little more conceptually impressive. And I really like this yellow and green sort of mixture down here with this background. Even though my brush is picking up some black here and there, I think it's adding some dimension and some value. And again, we're just experimenting with brush strokes here, right? So ultimately, how all this looks is going to be up to your taste. You don't have, there's no one right way to do this, right? Um, there's probably more functionally sound ways to do this. I'm going to mix on my palette a little bit of green and a little bit of yellow to give us some gradation. It'll give us a yellow green, right? Here's what that looks like on my palette. I'm rinsing my brush off, loading it up with some yellow, and then going back, right? And so we get a different shade. It's got some yellow undertones with some green overtones, right? And we've got kind of gone really dark green. I like how that looks down here. Um, anyway, I'm going to try and do some of these tree branches up here with this, right? So kind of this middle tree, I guess, can be some green foliage, some nice leafy patterns. I'm going back, putting more on my brush. Sorry, the painter's tape stuck on my phone cord. Here we go. Check this out. Oh, that's so satisfying. And then you want to cover some of the space. I'm going to go back, load my brush up again. It's a little darker, but that's fine. And again, depending, this little brush looks like it ain't much, but it does a whole lot. Like it really does a whole lot. Look at all the different patternings we've got here, right? Um, there's kind of this evergreen feeling to this one in the middle, right? And there's more of a flowery, almost ethereal feeling to this one, right? And then this one over here, I have to think about how to do this one. Maybe let's repeat some of our warm patterning over here with this. I'm going to try to, This is going to be a little difficult, but I'm going to think about how to do it. I think I'm going to try and do some cherry blossom patterning. And in order to do that, on my palette, I've got some red here. But I'm going to try to really water this red down because we don't have white, right? If I add yellow, it'll just make it orange, right? So what we have to do then is we have to really, really make this watery, right? Almost like a fine touch, right? Anyway, and then you see that? There we go. And then you're going to dab in this a little bit until most of it's off the brush. And then we're going to go back over here, and I'm just going to real gently up here. And you see how that comes out pink? Isn't that neat? Of course, I've stomped on some of this too. When you go back over it when it's that light, it starts to smoosh some of that. So I'm coming back in. I've reloaded my brush up. And notice I'm just tapping with the tip here. With this one, right? And what's the patterning on? Technically the term it would be a sakura tree, right? A cherry blossom tree. And I'm just going to let that extend to the edge. Because why not? Okay. So we've kind of got this interesting looping. This right hand side is not as impressive depth wise as this one on the left, and so I think I may go in a little stronger with some of this red in places, just to, and you see how since it's so wet already, I'm just dabbing and then the water travels. Yeah, that looks good. I think we've got that the little background stuff that we did in the soft pink that makes it make sense. And then this is more like big patches of color that's coming through, right? Look at that. Oh, that is visually satisfying, isn't it? Seeing all that space just kind of ooze together. And then we've got more of a tree. So let's take a look at what we've done so far. We've got a cherry blossom tree on the right. I'm feeling a certain way about the weight of this trunk as opposed to the weight of the branches now. That was probably something I should have addressed earlier. I'll see if I can come over this with some really, really dark green foliage or something else to sort of tweak that, right? But for now, I think this is a good stopping point, and we're going to break here and just let this dry a little and then set it aside and come back to it whenever we've let it dry and just seen how it is.